Hello viewer, welcome to today's episode of Health Talk Show. Today we are discussing about a section of mental health which affects everybody, which affects the elderly, the children and the middle age. I'm your host Lucy Wanza-Kariuki, and I have beautiful guests in the house, and they are going to introduce themselves, and I am sure you are going to enjoy the process. We are dealing with the mind, where it connects with the heart and the soul. Welcome to the show. To our guests, kindly introduce yourself, and I will start from the farthest side.
Thank you so much, Lucy. My name is Kitheka Kibe. I'm a counseling psychologist from the Kenya Institute of Professional Counselors, and I'm also the founder of the Phoenix Hub, an organization that deals with mental wellness and leadership training in schools. Thank you.
Welcome, Mercy. Once again, I'm sure we are going to learn from you.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for the invite. My name is Irene Kitheka. I'm also a counseling psychologist from Kenya Institute of Professional Counselors. I am also a professional in human resources and training and development. I am also a writer. I am a speaker and called to a few schools, and I'm also a mother. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Irene. Welcome to the show, and I'm sure we are going to learn more from you. Today we are talking about anger, emotions, and these are things that affect each one of us. And our guests are here to tell us more about this. Mercy, kindly introduce us to the topic of the day.
Thank you so much. Anger is an emotion. We need to understand that first. And it can either be passive or active anger. In the sense of passive anger is the kind of anger that we don't show. It's pent up inside and nobody wants to let it be seen. What I'm talking about active anger is that anger that you let show off either in actions, verbally, or even in your facial expression. I can know that Lucy right now is mad and I'm expecting her to react in that manner. And as an emotion, again, it calls for emotional intelligence on how you balance, how you react or act when you're angry. Because when you have the emotional intelligence, it's the capacity for an individual to be able to know when to react, when to act, and when to withdraw back when you're angry. So for me, that is what I would define anger and emotional intelligence in one sentence, that anger is just an emotion, and emotional intelligence is how you manage that anger.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can we say that emotion is a feeling? It is the weather in the body, how you feel, whether you're excited, you're not excited, you're worked up. Is that what we call emotion? Because I am sure, Irene, somebody listening to you will be like, when will I know this is an emotion and this is anger?
All right. That's a very good question.
Yes.
You find that emotion is the bigger word of all the weather, like you call it, the weather that you're feeling within yourself. So what happens is that emotions are different. So anger is one of those emotions that every human being has. So when you say, for example, when someone says, I am emotional, it's important to be very clear to identify what emotion exactly you are feeling. Because once you identify that emotion, then you're able to deal with that emotion. So as we're speaking today about anger, anger is one of those emotions. Anger is more like your whole body seems to be fighting something inside. And once it's fighting something inside, then you're able to, like she said, you're either going to bring it out, and that's why you can tell, by the way, that person is actually angry because of the way they are behaving. Or there are people who are angry, or within themselves things are just bottling up, and then they keep it within themselves. So when they're keeping within themselves, then is when you start hearing people do something ridiculous and you're like, what happened? You know, you didn't know. So there are those people who show that emotion of anger, and then there are those who don't show the emotion of anger. So it's important to be able to know, once I'm clear that I am angry, what am I doing about that anger?
Yes, yes. So it's kind of an hostility feeling. You are annoyed.
Not really
Something
hostility.
or what?
It's maybe we need to understand that feeling angry as an emotion is normal. Everybody gets angry. But there's a way that we perceive or we think about anger that makes it feel like, looks like it's a wrong thing to do. And there's a way you look at anger and it becomes helpful to you. So depending on how your perspective towards anger is, that's what makes anger rational or irrational. So what we need to understand first, that it is very normal for anybody to get angry. It's not something that someone needs to feel ashamed about, because we have been taught in our culture, you know what, especially for women, we find ourselves like, especially like in a marriage setup, you're not supposed to show your emotions. You're not supposed to really express what you're feeling, and this is something that can really mess you up inside. So it's okay for someone to get angry. It's okay not to be okay, and being part of not being okay is part of being angry. So that's something that is acceptable, and we should start looking at it as positively, because it also helps you avoid so much internal wrangles within yourself, and you create a balance when you're able to express this emotion of anger. Just like happiness or sadness or fear or excitement is just part of emotion, so is anger, just like any other emotion.
So what are other types of emotions apart from anger?
Oh wow, emotions are a whole bunch. I like that you said there are many. Part of the emotions that people go through are, for example, fear. Fear is one of the categories of emotions.
Yes.
Because, for example, fear is basically when you're in a state when you're not sure what's going on, and then it's creating a sense of uncertainty, and your whole body feels that things are just not working right.
Yes.
That is one of the emotions that is there. Disgust is also an emotion. When you're going through something and it literally irritates you, makes you feel horrible, not just for yourself, but for other people. Disgust is one of those emotions that people go through. Then we also have happiness. Happiness is one of those emotions I think we all get excited about when we are happy. And when you're happy, you're excited, you've got all these good things going on for you. That's an emotion that is also there. Then you also find anxiety. Anxiety is when you know, for fear, you're almost looking at it and you can see something is not working right.
Yes.
Now, anxiety is where you're not sure what's going on. For example, you get into a matatu, and then you know it is speeding. Yeah. There could be either way. There could be an accident. There could be no accident. The person sitting next to you could start screaming, and you're wondering like, okay, why is this person screaming? I don't know. There's that anxiety. You're sitting next to this person. The matatu is running. So anxiety is also one of those emotions that are there. Then we also have sadness.
Yes.
Sadness is that emotion that takes off your energies. It gives you a sense of somberness,
And
where hopelessness, where you feel nothing is working for me.
Yes.
You know, it's like when someone dies, it's only natural for you to be sad.
Yes.
Now, when you're kind of happy when someone dies, then there's something wrong with you, even if you're a crazy human being. But sadness is also part of those emotions that are there.
Yes. Wow, that is a good explanation.
And also, just to add on that, surprise. Surprise is also one of good emotions. Many people will not think of surprise as an emotion, but it is an emotion. You see, when you're surprised and it's just expressed like, oh, or it will depend on how you do, but just an emotion coming out of you that shows the type of expectation that you had, whether it was met or it was a disappointment. It can either be a surprise can go two ways. It can be either an expectation was met or there was a disappointment to that expectation that was not met.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Now we are talking about anger.
Yes.
Is one of our main emotion for the day.
Yeah.
What are some of the causes? Because a cause is going to classify which kind of anger is this. Yes.
Okay.
Causes of anger, yeah. I think number one, it's an unmet expectation can cause anger. In the sense of sometimes you find there are people who are just angry when they don't get their demands met. So that in that way, someone becomes agitated because they feel like they're being ignored, or someone is not really paying attention to what they are saying or meeting their needs. So in that essence, that feeling of anger can just be building up in you because you're feeling these people are ignoring me, they don't want to pay attention to me, I've been trying to do this, they cannot see what I'm trying to achieve or what I'm trying to give to them. So that unmet expectation. Then we also have bitterness, pent-up bitterness. Every time something happens to you, I love using this kind of example. Assuming like a child was defiled. And then you see that bitterness remains with you. And with time, it must find a way of expressing itself, of venting itself up. So you find that this child, when they are grown up, they just become angry people. You cannot really trace where the anger is, but there's so much bitterness that leads them to become so bitter. Low self-esteem. can be a source of anger. If you're feeling inadequate in front of people, if you're feeling like you don't match up to other people's standards, or every time someone tries to correct you and you're like ananionea, these people, they don't want to appreciate, they can't see what I'm doing, then also part of you trying to deal with your low self-esteem becomes a part of anger, that you're able to conceal the true emotion that you're really feeling. Yes, I don't know whether I've left out something else. I can see her looking at me in an anticipatory manner.
It's really, I know, I like what she said, because it's a lot of basically where anger comes from. There's also personal anger.
Yes.
For example, you'll find that if I'm coming from an environment where people are generally angry, so I am predisposed to an environment of anger. So I know no better. So every time I walk around,
it's a lifestyle.
I am just angry. So you find that there are people who you're hanging around, and you say something and they snap at you, and you're thinking, what did I do? You know, because this person knows no better. Their environment in itself is a cause for their anger. So that is also one of the things, including what my colleague has said, are some of the causes for anger. You know, it's part of your lifestyle. Like you said, you know no other, and that's part of the things that cause anger. Yes. Then you'll also find when I talk about economic, you can look at, for example, if it's a political environment. If you're such a serious belief in a particular, for example, ideology, and people are not listening to you. Like right now, and do we say fortunately or unfortunately, we are in that dispensation of this particular one. So if someone says something about your preferred candidate, for example, in politics, you get angry, and you're wondering, why are you upset? Probably you don't know them personally.
You're ashamed because what you feel is not what they feel.
Exactly. So you're wondering, I just said I have a difference of opinion, for example, on the political thing, and someone just decides to get angry. So again, when you find that you're hanging around a situation where people are not agreeing with you, you get annoyed with them. So that again becomes one of the causes for anger.
And maybe, Lucy, we were just very interesting. Anger can be genetic. Yeah. As in, there are people who are just born naturally angry.
That kind of a familial lineage.
Yes. As in, you're just born in a family where people just get angry for no apparent reason, and it just becomes part of your personality that you're always angry. It is true. It's just like the same way we were saying, there are some addicts, like alcoholic, there are some people who abuse alcohol. They just find themselves, because it's genetic. Your people, there's someone who was drinking alcohol, like your grandfather was into alcohol, your father becomes an alcoholic. Now you start walking into those steps of being an alcoholic without necessarily trying to put or to mark at what point did I start becoming an alcoholic. The same thing with anger. If you have come from a lineage of people who are naturally angry and they cannot place their anger onto something, because it's also important to note the root cause of your anger. Where is my anger coming from? What is the trigger towards my anger? What makes me angry? So when you are able to mark those points of where my anger comes from, now if you start understanding that my father every time is get irritated, even when people laugh, my anger is, my dad is irritated. When we do something, there's no confirmation of like, hey, that was nice, or no humor. Then now you need to start asking yourself, when did we start getting angry? And also another factor people really look over is the social setup, our society. How has our society framed anger? Or what perspective does a society expect us to look into anger? There are societies which will tell you it's okay to show happiness. It's okay to cry when someone dies, but it's not okay to be angry. So the moment you become assertive, and if someone tries to mishandle you and you become assertive and you fight back, someone tells you, you know what, that was wrong. You should not have done that. So that is the way the society tries to frame or to give an ideology towards anger that is not supposed to be acceptable. So those are also some of the dynamics that you also need to consider when we are looking at where anger comes from, or what are some of the sources of anger, because all these things now come back, and when we lay them on the table, they're able to explain to us what are we really dealing with.
And just to add on to that, And we find in when you're counseling people, sometimes you'll find the person has no idea where their anger has come from.
Yes.
And that's part of diagnosis, even when you're coming to the element of saying this person has this condition, this condition. There are those conditions where you really cannot tell until you go now through the entire counseling process to be able to know. So there are people who just get angry and they cannot literally explain why they are angry. So sometimes there's a bit where you find someone is angry, you're angry at them, but they don't know why you're angry at them, and they are angry also at you, or even angry at themselves.
Yes.
So anger is quite a complicated emotion, where we are saying it is both good and bad.
Yes. Okay, just like other emotions, as we are talking about anger, because there is a question I feel like asking, but I would like you to take me through something.
Yes.
Development of emotions. Is it something we are born with? Is it something that just comes up? Can a baby be happy during birth, during little or young age? Then when you're aging, something happens, you are a sad person. You burst into anger, or all of a sudden you're throwing things. Can you people take us through emotional development?
Let me just, to kickstart, I'll tell you, when a child is born, they are born as it is. There is no emotions. They are
Blank.
children. They are born tabula rasa. They are blank. They come, and they get hungry. And that's when you realize when they're hungry, there's a particular cry when a child is hungry. Then that's where, you know, those instincts of mothers.
When a child is
crying, this is hunger, this is pain, this they need to be changed their diaper, this one they're just being naughty, they want attention. Now, what happens with that?
Yes.
The whole emotional bit has your has hormones involved. So as you grow, then comes the environment. The environment is very critical with the development of emotions.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. For example, when you have children who are brought up in an environment where they're playing all together. They're playing, they'll do the cha mama, cha baba, they'll cook and do everything. You'll have the, different tribes. They're fine. Now, as they grow up, when they go home, is when they hear their parents saying, this particular tribe does this, this particular tribe. But when they were younger playing, they had no idea of that difference. So at that point, they start developing the emotion of hate. Because at home, they've already been told these particular people are like this, so you need to hate them. So that emotion of hate is already starting to be planted.
Yes.
When you're at home, for example, as a child, and you're a happy environment, because a child, yes, there are those things that will come instinctively. And when there's a home where people are always happy, people are always smiling, it would be almost natural for that child to realize, this is what I know. There is happiness. There is happiness. Then you'll find at times when there's a home where there's full of sadness throughout. So that child now develops the emotion of sadness as the only emotion they know.
Yes.
And that is why you're told a lot of times expose children to whatever emotions that are there. So when you're upset as a mom, or as a parent, you need to be able to know how do I basically express this emotion to this child. I am angry because you have done 1, 2, 3. Then a child knows next time I do this, I will upset my mother or I'll upset my parent. But then those ones where you grow up and the kids do not understand that there are certain emotions, for example, that you elicit when you do good and you do bad. The kids, when you do good in school, you bring a report card, you have an A. Oh, okay. And you move on with life. So a child is wondering, every other child in school is talking about how their parents are very happy. So me, I'm at home and my parents are very blank. So you're wondering like, so how am I supposed to react to the blankness to this? So as a child grows, you will find that society tends to start shaping the kind of emotions that they have, and more so the kind of emotions they will now even start displaying to the rest of the world. Yeah.
And I would just take you back to stages of development, whereby we have fixations and rewards.
Yes.
I think that is also another platform where we lay emotions, because when you're talking about stages of development, we are talking from 1 year to 2 years, 3 years to 4 years. In each and every year, a child is learning to negotiate at a certain stage. Assuming right now, when a child is like going to the washroom, if I may say. And sometimes when a child is learning the potty process, you find that it becomes a bit messy, because there are times a child will mess, there's a time a child will just get it right, there's a time a child will just come and get you at the wrong timing, and you just don't want someone telling you, Mom, I want to do the potty. So assuming during that time that child comes to tell you they want to use the potty, and instead of helping them go through the potty, you pinch that child, then that child understands that every time I want to go to the washroom, the reward is discipline, pain.
Yes.
So every time that child wants to go to the washroom, fear starts developing. So in other words, that child can associate going to the washroom for the rest of their lives unless they are able to negotiate that stage with fear. There are those people, there are those parents who are like, I'll give a practical example, like some of us growing up. We love to laugh in the house. And sometimes you hear our fathers telling us, why are you laughing like people who are not thinking? And at some point, it's true, you know? And sometimes you're like, hold on, I'm not supposed to laugh, because every time I laugh, there's a reprimand.
You are not thinking.
So there's fear when it comes to laughing, and every time you're trying to hide under the table or bite something because you're not hard laughing. So there's that now, an emotion that is developed inside me, that every time I want to show a humorous emotion, there's a discipline, so I recoil back. So you see, all these things, as Irene is saying, these are things we train children to grow up with. And it all goes back to socialization, the first primary socialization of a child, the first interaction of a child. Who interacts with a child, who trains them the way or the mannerism of the society, and how to respond to emotion, as they said. And when we go back to psychoanalysis, whereby we are saying now we need to understand what happened in our 0 to 6 years, because this is the formative years of any child, like Sigmund Freud would say, that what happens to a child within these 0 to 6 years, unconsciously, even you and me, we are reliving that time. So in any case that every time we try to express a certain emotion, it was meant either with an proud or a discipline, that is the same thing we recarry towards the future. So a child, as she said, is born blank, but when they start interacting with the environment, that's now how they start differentiating how to react to different emotions. And also with time, we try to shield our children, especially when it comes to grief or loss. We don't want them to go through the whole process. But it is important to understand that you need to expose these children systematically to every emotion that there is. Because then as they grow up, they are able to negotiate appropriately. Yeah.
Wow. So the whole thing is about environment.
It's about environment.
Which means that someone in a certain family, in a certain institution, could be different from another one in a certain institution.
Absolutely.
All because of the environment.
Exactly.
All because of what has been put in the mind.
Yes.
How one has been taught. That looks so wonderful. When we come to anger as an emotion, if I may ask, how are we supposed to know that this is anger? Does it have signs and symptoms? Warning, flash, red cards, that this is anger? Yes.
That's a very, very good question, because one of the things that people are encouraged to do is know yourself.
Yes.
When you have what we call self-awareness, you know that something is brewing within yourself. You can tell, Hapa, there's something that is going on. For example, if someone speaks to you rudely, if you know yourself very well, you will start, for example, hyperventilating. You'll be breathing very hard. You just breathe in, you breathe out. You'll start shaking or sweating. You will sweat. You'll see beads of sweat. You will, at some point, you'll probably be speechless.
Yes.
Because you're angry. If you touch yourself, for example, you'll start feeling your heart is beating, you know, you're pulsating, seriously. Those are the physical signs where you can actually start telling, I am getting angry. So yes, there are red flags. There are red flags when you're getting angry. There are some that come immediately, depending on the situation that you have put yourself into. And then there are those that come gradually. You know, there are those people who you know, they're like teasing you into getting you upset. They kind of break one thing, they see how you're going to react,
Yes.
and they break another thing. They're like pushing the buttons. So if you know that someone is pushing the buttons, because you already know yourself, then automatically you'll start knowing this situation is going to cause me to get angry. So for me, those are some of the things I can tell. Physically, you can actually still start feeling it. You know, your whole body starts, you start feeling hot. There's those physical things, you start feeling hot and you're getting upset. I don't know if I've forgotten something else.
I think you're getting it. I think also anger, I think some of these emotions are very personal. You cannot like generalize them.
True.
Because every person experiences their own emotion in their own capacity and how they react to them, then it also becomes a personal battle. There are people who will be angry and they'll just laugh, and you just know that laugh is not normal. It's just a sarcastic laugh of like, you see, if I just get hold of you right now, God help me. You know, and that's just a laugh. Yeah, there are people who walk away when they are angry, and as they are saying, there are people who just want like, I want to talk, but I'm stuttering, and I'm like, I can't really figure out what I'm saying. And also, even when you're with other people around, it is important also you start learning the people that you stay with, or the people that you're living with or working with. You can be able to tell like when Lucy is mad, when Irene is mad, or when Mercy is mad. Also reading someone, that attentive listening that goes from visual, emotions, audio. You can be able to read someone, non-verbal communication, how Lucy communicates when she's mad, non-verbally, how Lucy communicates when she's mad verbally, and how Lucy communicates in a passive manner when she's angry. So when I'm able to differentiate those scenarios, then I can be able to see the red flags coming. Maybe I know my dad will kill me. Let me just say, my father is this guy. He will not kill me literally. When he's mad and he starts drumming, we just know it's brewing. And that's the time for you to withdraw. If there was something that you were trying to communicate and you just see him drumming with his fingers, that's the time to withdraw. So we have learned with time that, hey, that one now, my mom would just snap and walk away. There are ways that now you relate with people and you know definitely I've crossed the line as an individual. And also sometimes I think also with anger, as individuals also we play a part in it. You already know something that is vexing you, and I'm just there pushing the battle as you're saying. So what's the point? Also the cognitive bit or the understanding bit as an individual that I should not go this far because I'm damaging someone emotionally. Then also it calls upon discipline for me to interrogate myself as an individual and ask myself, is it worth me driving someone else into anger? And that's a very high discipline question. It's not pride. Some people may think it's becoming, you're not proud as an individual or you're just a sissy, but I think that's strength when you're able to step back, when you realize that I'm wrong and I've made that someone mad and I need to draw back also myself and interrogate myself and ask myself, was it called for?
Wow. Viewer, this is Health Talk Show. We are discussing about anger and emotions, and I'm sure right now we understand that anger is one of the many emotions that affect the human people. Stay tuned. We shall continue after the break. Thank you, viewer, for keeping it at GBS TV Talk Show. We are continuing with our good talk, wonderful talk on anger as one of the emotions. And if I may ask our guests to elaborate to us, can a human person fake anger?
I think the question would be also, what is the motive to fake that anger? Because like we earlier said, anger is basically the emotion of unmet needs, disappointment with others and with self. So if you're faking anger, what is your motive? What do you want to achieve by faking that anger? Because that means that when you're faking the anger towards the person or the situation, there's something that you're expecting to get in return. For example, if you're this person, whether you're a you're a leader, you're a supervisor in the workplace, and you probably feel that when I show my anger, people will respect me. So what will I do? I'll always come to the office and I'll be banging tables so that people know I am the boss. So that is your anger. Why haven't you not done this? And you know, and when everybody looks at you is wondering, where is this one coming from?
Yes.
So you, the person who is faking it, your motive is to try and make people believe that they are going to respect you because you're the boss. So when anyone is faking this particular emotion, there has to be a reason as to why you're actually faking this particular emotion. What's your motive? What do you intend to gain? Is it respect? Are you trying to intimidate people? You know, because anger, you know, when you're showing it out, basically people are afraid of you, especially when your anger is very obvious. Yeah, so people would be scared of you. So you're probably saying, I've seen so and so look angry, and this is how they behave. So if I also try and look like I am angry, then people will fear me.
Yes.
And when they fear me, I will now start feeling good about myself, for example. Because maybe I feel people don't love me, people don't respect me, for example, in the workplace. But because the boss has shown he's angry and people are afraid, then even me, I am going to pull that. But again, I would also not advocate for faking, because sometimes this anger that you're faking can backfire on you.
Yes.
Can totally backfire, because we said, for example, some of the physical manifestations of anger are physical. So you find, for example, if someone is angry, they will use their bodies, they will punch things, they will kick things. Now, if you're in a home setting and you start kicking you're kicking the things around in the house, that is, of course, a loss. You could be kicking your own children, you're kicking your, people in anything else in the house. If it is in the office, you're kicking the computers, you're going to pay for them. In your spate of faking anger or trying to look big, that you have this thing where, because I am the boss, I need to always show anger and I'll throw things up, which is, by the way, a very movie scenario. People really don't always do that in the workplace. And in the formal workplace, rarely do people do that. So for me, faking is possible. The question most likely would be, what is the motive for you faking that anger?
And I think that comes to manipulation. If you're faking anger, then you're becoming a manipulator. As she explained it so well, because you're trying to manipulate people to fear you. And that also calls back to what I said, covering your inadequacy. Is it that you don't believe in yourself to communicate to people in an amicable manner, such that you have to resort to faking anger so that people can respect you? I would be so disappointed in myself as an individual if I had to fake how angry I am every time to get things moving. It draws me back again to my question, how adequate, competent am I as a leader, as a manager, or as a parent? And sometimes parents, we are good at it. If you go and you find what you had instructed children to do in the house, they have not done. Hey, especially mothers, we are good. You just start breathing fire from the door. And by the time you are out of your bedroom within 30 minutes, everything is in order, the way you wanted it to be. Yes, at some point it makes things move. But the setup also, and also the motive behind it is what counts. But in most cases, especially when even as spouses, there are spouses who manipulate their other spouses. Every time I wrong, I'm on the wrong, I become angry and unapproachable. So that my spouse does not question me as to why I did this. And even there is no communication whatsoever. Because every time I try to approach the situation, then you're there being angry, being abusive. Some of them even become violent. So it's a way of manipulation, especially when you really don't want to deal with the real issue.
Yes.
And remember I said, anger is an emotion, but it is not empty, it is not void. There has to be a root cause. So when you fake anger, you're being manipulative. Actually, that's the word. There's no easy way of explaining it. So, and also being manipulative is also one of our ways as human beings to get our way. If I'm making sense with that statement.
Yes.
So why should you be manipulative when dealing with anger? It means you're not capable of facing that anger head on and dealing with it. Yes. So go back again and start asking yourself, why can't I deal with my anger?
So what we could say in simple words, Mercy and Bula here, it's that if you fake anger, you're trying to avoid something.
You're trying
You
to
are
avoid
trying to
confrontation.
hide your identity.
Yes.
It is something that may not take you anywhere.
Exactly.
Because immediately after the period of faking is over, the root thing which was inadequate in you still remains.
Thank you.
For example, if you needed money and you have had all the tantrums at the end of the day, you might make it worse.
And actually also,
Yes.
it also, by the way, faking anger, you know, also already being in that angry status, every time you're angry, it also makes you become an incompetent person to run healthy relationships.
True.
Yes.
Because everybody was like, why would I even dare go near them? Because every time they are mad at everything, nothing makes them happy. So already it is a detriment to yourself because now people start avoiding you. So even when you're faking this anger, even when someone was there trying to see this beautiful woman or handsome man, and every time I'm in the picture, he's ever angry, why would I want to go near such a person?
Yes.
So it also brings you at a disadvantage because nobody wants to be associated with someone who is ever
Yes.
angry. It's draining. It's
We
draining.
may get
Yeah.
used to so and so is usually like that.
And even unachoka.
Yes.
Sianga mtu amesema tumechoka na huyo.
People will never get you serious,
Exactly.
even at a time or at the point that now you are really angry.
Yes.
We will never know.
People just say he's
that's where-
faking.
Yeah, that's why you know when people will cry wolf.
Yes.
Yes.
Every other time, like you're saying, once the faking is over, because how long can you fake it? Really, how long can you fake? So once you fake, because you know when you're angry, your emotions are high, as it is. Your hormones, right? That's the word.
Yeah.
Your emotions are high, so you're kind of up there. And when the fakeness ends, you kind of come down to a slump. And then you come down and you're like, hold on, I was up there feeling all good and sweet, and like she said, you're all manipulated.
Yes.
But whatever it is you wanted is still not done.
Yes.
If anything, you most likely than not, you've made the situation worse. So at the end of the day, what was the point?
Yes.
That's the bottom line. What was the point?
Yes.
Yes.
You become a loner, you become depressed, you become anxious. Just give every negative emotion that you can run in this world.
Yes.
And then with time, you just become these 100. Every time I run into you, you're just mad. You're mad at being mad at yourself. You're mad at faking your madness. You're mad at not being able to deal with yourself. And the whole house just become this mad about everything.
Oh my goodness,
yes.
viewer, this madness will not end.
Exactly.
The best thing is to face yourself.
Thank you.
You communicate.
Yes.
Ask what you need.
Exactly.
Because if you fake, the faking will come to a limit, to an end. And after it is over, you cannot continue.
Exactly.
Kindly, Bula, tell us, how can we manage this emotion of anger?
Wow.
How can we deal with it? How can we help others deal with it? You are a psychologist. These are some of the clients we will refer to you, will be referred to you.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
I think the first thing I believe in is acknowledge that you're angry.
Thank you.
Because as long as you do not acknowledge that you're angry, then what are we dealing with? What are we dealing with?
Yeah.
It's like when you go see a doctor, you cannot you cannot go to a hospital and then you say you have a stomachache and then they take you to theater and cut off your brain. It don't make sense.
So, for you as a counselor, the first
Yes.
thing is to diagnose.
Identify this is anger.
Then inform the client.
Identify it is anger.
Yes.
When you're speaking to a client,
Yes.
the words they will come up with, I am annoyed, I am upset, I don't like, I hate. There are certain words that they'll come up and you can tell this is anger.
Yes.
This is anger. Now, once you get to that, because wherever you are, it is you who is angry.
Yes.
The first thing I would always tell anyone, and I know it sounds so simple, but is breathe. Breathe. I know it's easy. Right now, we're all seated, we are breathing.
Yes.
Very easily. But when you're angry, and I think I started by saying, you breathe in very fast. You hyperventilate, you can't speak, you tell someone, don't speak, just breathe in. Listen to yourself breathing. Listen to yourself, because sometimes breathing is so involuntary that you don't think about it. You just know it goes in, goes out, goes in, goes out. But when you're angry, you are having so many things going on within your body. You kind of need to calm down. Calm down.
Yes.
Calm down. You breathe in. You know, when we read about researches that tell you you count 1 to 20 backwards. Just do that. Just do that. Before you start yelling, you start screaming, count 1 to 20 backwards. I'll start with that. Just count backwards. Count. Breathe. Then after that, we need to ask ourselves, are you in an environment, for example, that is also stirring up that anger? Because if you're in that environment, move away from that environment.
Yes.
It's very important. Because like we said earlier, if you're in an environment that just has angry people, you will when you're with people who, are angry, you kind of get angry yourself. So if you're still angry, move away from that environment. It's very, very important. Because at the end of the day, the way you're thinking is the way you're going to start expressing yourself, and you're angry and you're still going back to the same place. So we're not helping you here. We're not helping you here. Something simple as walk away. Literally, physically walk away. You're having an argument with people, and you can tell. Remember we said self-awareness? You can tell, here, things are getting hot. Walk away. Excuse yourself. Because you're a person who knows yourself. Say, excuse me, I need to take a walk. Some people may take it very badly, by the way. You're in a meeting, and you're in a boardroom meeting, and people are yelling and yapping, and you're like, excuse me, I need to walk away. Because you know yourself. You know, if I stay here, the words that will come out of here will be brimstone and fire straight from hell. And I'll probably lose my job. I'll probably say something that to my elders in this board meeting, I do not want. Husband, wife, they are speaking, and the wife, we know women are very historical. Not hysterical always, historical.
Yes.
So you're having that anger moment. You will remember the thing that your husband did like 10 years ago. And him is like, yes, he has discussed this thing, it quished, So it's that bit where literally take yourself away from it. Take a walk. Get away from it. Because those are some of the things that will now allow you to start to breathe about it. Because then you'll start reflecting. I'm sure you can add a little more.
Yeah, I'll go back to cognitive thinking. By you internalize. When I say cognitive, that's when you engage your brain now. As in that process of drawing back, first you need to internalize what's really making you angry. Assuming just someone tripped off and a glass fell they were carrying, and then you just become angry. Instead of first shouting, they tipped off. It was not deliberate. So at that point, think, is your anger positive? Is your anger, how would I say, can you equate your reaction to the scenario to being something that was rational or irrational? When you start thinking, then when you draw back, at some point you realize it was, I didn't need to act angry. I didn't need to overreact the way I did. At some point, I was also on the wrong. I should have also maybe comforted the person, because maybe when someone fell, they got hurt. So were you so mad about a glass breaking, which you can just buy? Or are you so remorseful about someone who broke their foot? And then the other thing we like telling people is emotions pass, but words said in anger, they cannot be taken back. Once you have spoken, you have spoken. And some of those hurtful words we say, they remain with that person. And then they start developing regret. Because why did I say that? Now you start also creating more trouble to yourself, because now you're burdened with regret, and now you're burdened with unforgiveness. You start working towards reconciling with the other person, a process that should have been avoided. And also something else we really tell people is learn to communicate effectively. And by learning to communicate effectively, I'm saying, can I be in a position to listen without first jumping into conclusion what you want to say. Because there are some people who would just say, you know, you did wrong, and before even they continue, you know what, you've already formed your own opinion as to what they wanted to say. You never gave them time. And even if you're mad and angry, she said, walk back and then come back and find an environment that is calm enough and you're able to talk about the issues that are really making you angry about it. Yes, I don't know.
I think also to add on to that,
Yes.
I think it's also important, like you said, when you're angry, it's also nice to ask yourself, is this something that happens all the time?
Yeah.
Because like we said, that trigger for what upsets you. So if it's one particular thing that keeps on making you angry,
Yes.
then you need to ask yourself, really, what is it about this thing or this person or whatever situation I'm in that keeps on making me angry?
Yes.
And that is where now we keep on talking about people need to know themselves. You just need to know what is it that is always making me angry. And you see, when that happens, you're careful enough to sit down. You know, when you say, I have a meeting with myself,
Yeah.
I have a meeting with myself and I say, let me just decide to basically write down what exactly is making me angry. What is making me angry? Because once you start doing that, we call it journaling. When you start writing what makes you angry, you'll realize that anytime I'm within this particular scenario, because we find a lot of times when you write something, it kind of crystallizes in you. So anytime you're within that environment, it comes back to your mind and you say, when I'm in this particular situation, it kind of makes me angry.
Yeah.
So can I avoid it if I need to? And if I can't avoid it, I know I have to go through it. But what kind of emotion now do I want to have going through this?
Yes.
You know, because that's critical. And I think the Bible also says, you know, you can get angry, but don't sin.
Yeah.
So at least, thank God, God realizes we can get angry, but we are told not to sin.
Yeah.
So it is okay to get angry, but it's important to understand that when I am angry, there are going to be consequences for the choices I make when I'm in that particular state, whether I am a young person, I'm an old person, so to speak, or wherever I am. It's important to recognize I am angry. Yes, I am angry.
Yes.
But what is this anger doing for me so that, like she says, after that, then what?
And maybe,
Are
Lucy, before
there-
you move there,
Yes.
something that we overlook when we talked about unplaced anger, it is unfinished business. There are people who are just angry like now. For instance, if you lost a spouse or parent or a child, and you are facing some regrets and guilt of things you should have done differently or told them differently, or maybe cases of abuse or rape that you have never dealt with. This can be what we call unfinished business. There are emotions that have not been expressed and issues that have not been dealt with in you as an individual. So you find that you are just angry, but you project it to the wrong people. It is very good that you're bringing out the emotion of anger, but the people who are receiving your anger are the wrong audience. So also dealing with some of this unfinished business inside you also helps you avoid that bit of projecting that anger to the wrong party. So it's important when you know that where is my anger coming from and who is the recipient of my anger and are they the right audience for receiving that anger.
Yes.
That is something very important also, because sometimes you can get out of home, and I think in media we say hang your coat of emotions and experiences at the door as you come in, because now you're getting into a neutral ground because you don't want to bring in the baggage. So identifying where that baggage is coming from so that you don't bring it to the wrong people who should not be receiving it is very important.
At what point do you refer a client who has been coming to you with anger issues?
Okay.
Shortly,
okay.
in 1 minute.
Okay. I think when you get to a point where you realize that the anger that this client has is chronic or has been there for a long time, then you realize that this is not just a conversation anymore. You need to move on to the next level of some level of assessment.
Yeah.
And this is where you actually refer them to a medical practitioner who will be able now to diagnose the person. We have basically quite a number of certified assessment tests that are very clear. They'll be able to diagnose and say this person actually has anger issues, has anger management issues, and needs now to be able to move. And that's why you'll find When that person, within the counseling session is not working very well, when they move to where there's institutionalized or there's medication, you now actually have someone taking medication to calm their nerves. Yes, you actually have people who you calm their nerves, but you still don't stop the counseling. You still don't stop the counseling because, like we said, there's unfinished business. There's something that you need to be able to deal with that is making you so angry that your entire, you start having your behavior is so different.
Yes.
So that is what happens once. There's definitely a clinical assessment that takes place for you to actually be, for example, have medication or institutionalized when you have serious anger issues.
Mercy, I know we have spoken a lot of things.
Yes.
I would like you to face to your camera and give your viewer a message of hope as you give your parting shot and remind us where we can get you. After that, we will go back to Irene.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for this opportunity. My parting shot is, it's okay not to be okay. And by that, I mean, it's okay to express the emotion of anger when you feel it, but also it is very important to identify where the source of that anger is coming from and who should be the recipient of your anger. Just don't go throwing tantrums to everyone who is not even part of your anger. You can find me at the Kenya Institute of Professional Counselors in Hazina Towers at the CBD, and I'm also a director and a founder of the Phoenix Hub. If you want me to visit your school and talk to your pupils or students, you can just get to Lucy and she'll be able to contact me from there. Thank you so much and God bless you.
Thank you, Mercy. Face your camera, your
right.
parting shot and a message of hope.
All right. I think for me, what I'll tell you is it is okay to be angry. It is okay to be angry. It is okay to feel that anger, but know what to do with that emotion. Make sure that, first of all, you're clear about your anger. Know where that anger is coming from. Then deal with that particular emotion. It is a beautiful emotion when it is well managed. So keep well and God bless you.
Thank you so much, our guest. It was our honor having you in the studio, and we've really learned from you. Viewer, we were doing Health Talk Show, dealing with anger and emotions. Have you ever found yourself one time just getting angry because you're thinking that somebody is talking about you, is planning something bad behind your back? This is called paranoid anger. Make sure that you do not just imagine things. Face the people. Talk about the anger that is facing you, and I am sure you're going to deal with your mental health. Stay tuned to GBS TV as we continue with our talk on mental health next time. Bye-bye.